still continue to grant us that favor that you always give us, because we know that, Lord, you love us and you always want us to know more and more about you. Let this season be a means by which we would enhance our knowledge about your ways, about your nature, and about your purpose for humanity, so that we can celebrate and celebrate it well for others to come to the saving knowledge of you. This and everything I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So, we're talking about Valentine, and we know Valentine's Day. We've been celebrating it for several years now, and most of us. However, we don't really know. There are people who ask, is it true that it happened? And now it's a myth. And even if it happened, is it Christian? And then what lessons can we learn from it? So I will do about 10 or so minutes, maximum 15 minutes presentation on that, and then we'll continue with the panel discussions based on the needs that we raised in the questions. So we start by saying, what happened before Valentine's Day was instituted? What happened? Now, before its institution, ancient Rome had been celebrating a festival called Lupercalia, and they celebrated that festival on the 13th to 15th of February every year. Now, it was a pagan fertility festival dedicated to Faunus, that is the Roman god of agriculture, and Romulus and Remus, that is the legendary founders of Rome. Now, what they do during that festival is that young men would kind of ballot, or they'll do something like lottery. And let's say they'll put the names of the ladies in one big basket. And randomly, the guys in the town, single guys in the town, will just go and then pick the names. So any lady you pick, that lady is yours from 13th to 15th. The lady is yours. So whatever I do to the lady, and in there is between you and then the lady. So this is the festival that we were celebrating within this period. And sometimes it led to marriage, because some chose ladies that are marriage material. So at the end of the this February season festivity, they just go and then go into marriage. Now, during the festival, we have the priests, that's the Luperci. They will sacrifice goats and then run through the streets, and then lightly, not strongly, lightly be hitting the women, mostly on their backs. They'll be hitting the women in the town. So wherever there's a woman, they'll come and hit you. And that is part of the sacrifice. And they believe that this event, hitting of the women, it enhances fertility, and it ensured an easier childbirth. And this is gotten from Plutarch and then Ovid. Plutarch is a Greek historian, and Ovid is a poet. They give us this. So this was what was happening. Now, other sources said that during this Lupercalia, the festival is celebrated, and it is wild and unrestrained. So when they say the party is wild and unrestrained, just guess the thing that do happen during that period. And it involves nudity, fertility rituals, and pairing of couples, as I already explained. So assuming that we were in the time, probably today is what? 12. So from tomorrow, maybe the single ladies will put your name in the basket. I'm sure maybe I'll choose Oye or so. And then Oye and I will be going through from 13th to 15th. Whatever we will do is ours. And then it is wild parties. So this is what was happening before the institution of Vows Day. So what did the church do as the church? Now, during that time, evangelization was going on. People were coming into the faith. However, when they come into the faith and it's time for a Lupercalia, they go and do balloting. So they are Christians, but they'll go and do what? Balloting. And when they pick any of them, they just go and do whatever the season allows them to do. And this is one, the images are wild, so I just chose this one. So you can see that all the guys, they've gone out running after the ladies and trying to accost them so that they would go and then from 13th to 15th, whatever they'll do, they'll do. So this is how it is. Wild parties, no mercy. Now, historically, the day came, that is Valentine's Day. I'm just giving a brief. I've given a period before. But the Val's Day itself, the day came from the name Valentine, which was a popular name during the Roman Empire. The meaning of the name comes from the word valeo, which means to be strong, someone who is very strong. Now, several Roman emperors, and then even there was a pope who had the name Valentine. And aside, there were a lot of people then, more than 30 persons, with the name Valentine or Valentinas. That is the female name or the rendition of the name Valentine, who had this very name. And in the Roman, in the Catholic Church, they were knighted, so they were made saints, sorry. In the Catholic Church, you are not a saint until the church makes you a saint. And before you are made a saint, you have to meet certain criteria. So during that time, there were more than 30 people who have made saints. In the Protestant Reformed Church, all of us, we are all saints. Because it is God who has made us saints, not a human being who declares that on us. We are all holy priesthood of God. So that's the difference. However, at that time, a lot of people had the name Valentine or Valentinas. Now, Valentine's Day, it circumvents around two notable saints. So though there were a lot of saints during that time, there were only two saints that this day hovers around. And the first one is Saint Valentine, a priest in Rome. And then another one called Saint Valentine, the bishop of Terni. And then the Terni is a town. The ancient name is Interamna. But the name, the modern one is Terni. Now, they were both supposedly beheaded on February 14th in the reign of Emperor Claudius. So these two saints were all beheaded on this very day. So that is Valentine the priest, and then we have Valentine the bishop. So that's the difference. One is a bishop, one was just a normal priest, like an osofo. And one is a bishop, like a head or the senior head or something of a particular area. Or a cathedral or something, the head of the cathedral. So you have a bishop there. Now, most scholars believe that the two stories, that is from the bishop and then from the priest, in fact, the two stories are from the same person. Some scholars are saying we don't have a bishop and we don't have a priest. It's the same person who the stories are all hovering around. Just that there came a time that some people use the identity of the actual Valentine and then ascribe it to a person that, let's say, their master that they were following, because they didn't know when their master was born. And because at that time, the Valentine name was popular and the name had that, I would say, aura around it, they just applied it to one of a matter that they were following. So some scholars think that they are the same person. We don't have bishop, we don't have priest. Modern scholarships even conclude that the stories around the Valentines are not authentic. It is like somebody made them up. However, there is a man called Carl Uti. He thinks that, yes, the stories, it happened. Just that it took a form of mystic construction. And in the mystic construction, they will add accurate stories and inaccurate and blend them together. It's just like when you are writing obituary for somebody who didn't live a good life. You try your possible best to do what? Sometimes you are writing the thing, and now we cry, oh yeah, I do we cry, something of that sort. I'm just using obituary to help us. So it happened all right. But when writing it, they added some details to it to make it look nice. That is what Carl is saying. Now, aside from that, there are several dates given for the event when it happened. And some say it happened in AD 269, others say 270, others say 273. Now, note that Jesus Christ died around AD 33. Let's just use that. So, when you subtract 33 years from 269, it means that this event happened around 236 years after Jesus Christ had died, or 270 years, 37 years after Jesus Christ has died, or even 270 or so years after Jesus Christ had died. So dates have been given, and then it shows that, yes, it's true. This man, J.B. Urach, thinks that the accounts are either or both of, the accounts of either or both of the Valentines, either of them or even if it is one, were written in the form of trial records or eyewitness memoirs. So when you are on trial, let's say you've done something, Kwabena has done something, the emperor will call Kwabena, do you know what you did is against the empire? So as they were trying Kwabena, the records that were written, that is how JB thinks the Valentine story was also written. And maybe those who also were around the event, those who witnessed the trial, they also, when they went home, they penned certain things down. However, they were almost certainly destroyed during the Great Persecution in the early 4th century. So these persons are saying the thing happened, but because of the persecution during the time, all the records, or virtually all the records, got destroyed. Now, those of us who went through with us the Bible series, you will see that we have the Great Persecution even in the Valentine story. So if you remember, the Great Persecution was basically to curtail or stop the spread of Christianity, or just to get down to the root and destroy it totally. And that was what Emperor Diocletian did. He tried his possible best to stop the spread of Christianity, to stop the growth of Christianity. So they went through several things. And I hope you remember this image. You remember this image? Oh, don't you remember this image? So this is what we call the amphitheater. The Christians are those down there kneeling, and then you have probably one leading them, standing, praying to God. Some of the Christians are those being bent on the stake. And what happens is the records, if you have a Bible, they will use the Bible as, in quotes, the firewood or the charcoal. They will just take them and put it under you, and then just let the match for you, and then you die. So they are saying that the story happened during this period, and it happened, but during this period, because they were taking everything about Christians and burning them, they also burned the Valentine actual story. So it is also being burnt at the stake. And then you can see this one too. So Christians have gone through a lot of pains. Sorry that it's Valentine, but I'm bringing this in here. It's to help us to understand. Now, so what is the Valentine story itself? The story that is said it was embellished, or the story that happened, but later on, because of the persecution, it was burnt. Now, this is the story. The priest Valentine was arrested during the persecution of Emperor Claudius. When summoned before Claudius, Valentine stoutly defended the validity of his faith. And the ruler appeared to be impressed, that is Claudius, until the prefect, Calpurnius, urged Claudius not to be seduced by the defense Valentine was given. Now, Claudius attempted to get him to convert to Roman paganism in order to save his life. So if you want to save your life, come and be what? A Roman, and come and worship our God. However, Valentine refused and tried to convert Claudius to Christianity instead. So whilst he caught him trying to change his mind, he also used the opportunity to also change the mind of the emperor. Because of this, he was executed. But something happened before the execution. So what happened? Now, Valentine was committed to a house of the nobleman and jailer Asterios. Valentine prayed to God to bring light to those who live in Asterios' house and to make them know the true God. This prayer, or the words of Valentine, prompted Asterios to challenge Valentine to restore the sight of his adopted daughter called Julia, who had been blinded by cataracts since the age of 2. Now, Valentine's fervent prayers, tears, and God's mercies effected the miraculous cure on Julia. And hence, Asterios himself, his daughter Julia, and about 44 members of their household immediately converted to Christianity. So this is what happened. Now, Valentine and Julia became friends afterwards. So he went to the house, prayed. Okay, if you believe in this God, and I'm challenging you, I have a daughter who is blind. If you can pray to the daughter, we will convert, me and my household. And then truly prayed, God listened to them, and then they all converted. All the 44, including Asterios and then his daughter Julia. And after that, Valentine and Julia became friends. Now, we don't have any historical record, I've not seen yet, where it qualified the friendship, whether it was amorous or whether it was eros or whether it didn't. We don't have any. They just said that they were friends. So let us take it like that. You sometimes we hear things, external things. Now, before this event, before this healing and this conversion, Claudius, who is the emperor, allegedly banned soldiers from marrying. And his purpose was he believed that single men made better warriors. You see, when you're going to war, you know you have a wife and children at home. You have a way of thinking. And when you're going to war as a man and there's nobody, you don't have anything to lose, your actions and your mood is totally different. So the emperor made sure, and even there was a decree that nobody should marry. But Valentine defied the decree and secretly performed Christian weddings for soldiers. That's what he was doing. So when the news of the miracle and conversion of the entire household, probably soldiers, eventually reached Claudius, he invited Valentine and tried to convert him, as we saw earlier on, to paganism, of which he refused. And then he was executed on February 14th, AD 269. The C there is circa AD 269. Before his execution, the priest signed a letter when he was in prison. He signed a letter from your Valentine to Julia, his friend. And according to John Fox, after Valentine's burial, Julia herself planted a pink-blossomed almond tree near his grave. And the tree remains a symbol of abiding love and friendship. Now let's look at Valentine's Day institution. By the late 4th and 5th century, Christianity had become the dominant religion in the Roman Empire with the help of Emperor Constantine. However, pagan festivals like Lupercalia, we saw how it was being celebrated, were still widely celebrated. Wild and unrestrained acts were carried out. Church leaders, with a duty to feed and care for the flock and aid them to live life that is pleasant to God, saw the need to replace Lupercalia with Christian observances. So Pope Gelasius I, or the first, officially banned Lupercalia in 496 AD, condemning it as a pagan and an unholy festival. Now, to give the people an alternative so that they will celebrate. So as I said, when it's being celebrated by the pagans, these people will not be tempted to go. The Pope again established February 14 as St. Valentine's Day in honor of St. Valentine of Rome, who was martyred for his Christian faith, as we saw. St. Valentine's story, which included performing Christian marriages and sacrificing his life for love and faith, became a symbol of divine and sacrificial love. Now, although Lupercalia itself faded, that wild festivity faded, its association with love and fertility remained. So there was this poet who wrote one of his poetries called Parliament of Fowls. He connected February 14 to romance. And he said that bears, during February 14, bears choose their mates, and then they also go on Valentine. Now, by the mid-ages, Valentine's Day had become a day to express love and devotion in Christian context, rather than in the pagan context, as we saw. By 18th and 19th century, people exchanged love letters, poems, and later Valentine's cards to express this love. What are some of the lessons that we learned from this? First, we saw that Valentine was obedient. His obedience to God, he was obedient to God over human authority. And we saw that. 2, he had the courage to face persecutions. He wasn't afraid when the Claudius called him and said, if you don't convert, I will kill you. He said, no, I will not convert. He rather tried challenging Claudius. And then we saw that he had sacrificial love. He sacrificed himself by performing Christian marriages, which the king or the emperor banned during the period. We also saw that he was faithful until death. So Valentine was faithful until death. Now, let's ask ourselves whether we possess some of these things Valentine possessed, or exhibited, or manifested. He remained faithful to Christ until his execution. And then, love as a testimony of faith. He expressed love, the Christ-like love, as a testimony of his faith. It's not easy going against an emperor's command or instruction. But because of that love he had, people must marry. They want to marry. And it is not wrong to marry. He went on to do that. Now, all the other loves that we have, eros, stuge, philia, mania. Eros, romantic love. Stuge, familial love. Friendship love, which is philia. Mania is obsessive love. Ludos is playful love. And then pragma is enduring love. All these love, they are founded, or let me say, they stand on agape love. Without having agape love, all these loves are meaningless. All of them, they don't have meaning. And if the person doesn't have, like Valentine doesn't have agape love, which he expressed, the filial love, which was the friendship love, he could easily disappoint them and do what, save his life. Though he may have a friendship love, but the agape love is not there. The same way, your eros love, without agape love, is meaningless. It's just for self-pleasure. And then the familiar love or family love, that one too the same. You are in a family. Without agape love, Valentine expressed, that love between your brothers and your sisters do not really have meaning. That is why it's important for us to understand that agape love is very important for all of us. If you really have agape love, or you want to live by agape love, all the other loves on it have meaning, and you would always act in line with that agape love. So ask yourself whether the person you are with, the family you find yourself in, the church, is founded on agape love. Agape love bonds some of these things. If not, then basically that is that. And this is the love that Valentine expressed. And that is why we keep on remembering that. And as I said, because we didn't want people to go and then, or the church didn't want people to go and celebrate these wild and unrestrained, immoral festivals, the church held on to this and they replaced it with this, and rather celebrated in a way that would honor Jesus Christ. So basically, Valentine's Day is a day that we use in remembering the agape love of Christ. So let us remember it and honor it well. Amen.